Comrades, I think it's obvious that the depth of the crisis has put new and important duties on the left, and especially on the radical and anti-capitalist left. The first duty has been to explain the nature and the characteristics of this crisis, of this global crisis. Explaining the crisis is not an end in itself, or some kind of an intellectual task, but it has been crucial in order to help the movement to have a clearer picture of the trajectory of the crisis, in order to help the activists to be more able to predict what they have in front of them, in order to understand what are the capabilities of our opponents. For example, this analysis has been crucial in Greece when the first scuffles between sections of the movements and the government emerged, in order to understand that these scuffles were coming from the future, not from the past. These were the first signs of working class resistance to the crisis, so we should support it. We should generalize the example, not keep back in fear of being isolated, for example. So, the parliamentary left was deeply disorientated when the crisis erupted, either by saying that the debt crisis was not a real thing, it was just a passing away trend, and so on, or by saying that the first austerity measures by the government would be able to resolve the crisis, so the movement was already defeated, or by saying that Greece is quite a small country, so this crisis cannot be an international European issue. So I think the second duty is to connect with all these new recruits of our movement, all the people who are getting radicalized and getting into action. A recent poll in Greece showed that in the last months, more than 2 million people took part in one day or another, in some form of action or another, in the occupation of a square or in a strike, and so on and so forth. Another statistics show that in the last year, in Athens, we had two demonstrations every single day. So you can understand that the majority of these people don't have a long experience of organizing and come into the movement bringing all their enthusiasm, but also bringing ideas from their past. So the important thing is that in Greece we have seen a combination of two factors in the movement in the previous year. On the other hand, was what we would call the spirit of Tahrir Square. I mean, the people resisting austerity in the neighborhoods, occupying squares and saying, down with all of them. On the other hand, there was this sustained wave of working class action, of strikes, of occupation in separate sectors or in big general strikes. So this combination has been very, very crucial. Because of the existence of this spirit of Tahrir Square, the workers that went out on strike felt that they had the support of the majority, that they were fighting in the interests of the majority, that their struggle is going to be sustained and is going to have a political impact. On the other side, the power of the working class, of the worker struggle, has helped the entire movement to orientate and be more politicized. The general strikes have given the opportunity to everyone to know that all these different separate resistances from different workplaces, neighborhoods, schools, universities, and so on, can be united. And there is an organized force that can push the fight forward, and that is the organized working class. So the role of the anti-capitalist left has been very important in order to have all these developments in Greece. As far as the first duty is concerned, explaining the crisis and providing an alternative, the anti-capitalist left has been absolutely crucial. The program of the anti-capitalist left has now been at the center of the discussion in the entire movement. The program that says we should stop paying the debt, we should cancel the debt, that we should nationalize the banks under workers' control, that we should break with the Eurozone, and for that we should occupy to save our jobs. This program has helped the struggle have a focus and a sense of the strategic tasks we have in front of us? Well, comrades, in times of crisis, the self-emancipation of the working class stops being just a slogan, and it has to find more concrete ways to express itself and vote for. So, we shouldn't see this intervention of the anti-capitalist left in isolation from the rest of the left. Greece has the advantage of having two big parties, two left parties in the parliament, one of which is the Communist Party, that is still hard Stalinist, some kind of an exception in Europe, but it has been important for the configuration of the movement in the country. So what I'm saying is that the anti-capitalist program has pushed also the parliamentary left to move in a more militant direction, to have a more clear direction in what it does. I think the second achievement has been not to let the movement divide into one side, let's say, more decentralized movement of the squares, on the other side, the working class. The government and the ruling class and the media have made a concerted effort to do that, to play the squares movement against the working class movement. Fortunately, they have lost this fight, at least for the moment. The reformist left has not been at all helpful in that. On the one hand, there was part of the left playing with the idea that what's happening in the squares is more important than the working class struggle. So the activists should orientate towards organizing in the streets and not in the workplaces. On the other hand, the Communist Party, by being hostile to what was happening in the squares, by saying that the demonstrators there are middle class, are not political, and so on and so forth, they are inexperienced, for example. What it did eventually was to help these autonomist trends in the movement, because they were feeling hostile themselves towards left-wing parties and politics and so on. I think we managed to break into this false division by being an integral part of what was happening in the squares, and at the same part arguing openly and systematically that the orientation has to be towards the building general strikes, organizing all-out strikes and occupations in the workplaces. And the spirit has changed. In the first days of the occupation in Syntagma Square, there was this tendency to speak about, no political parties, no placards, no banners, and so on. But when the police dispersed the crowd for the first time on the 15th of June, it was the banners and the blocks of the anti-capitalist left that reoccupied the square and helped the people go back in. Some months ago, you could hear many people talking about using the slogan, I won't pay, I don't pay, I won't pay. And usually they meant that they won't pay their bus ticket in order to resist individually against the austerity measures. But now, the majority uses the word, the slogan, I won't pay, and they mean I won't pay the sovereign debt. So the movement has become more political in the last months. Actually, a recent poll showed that, even if it sounds contradictory, that this recent movement has created a decrease, has made fewer people saying that they're going to abstain for the next elections, and or they're going to use blank votes and so on. So the movement pushes more people towards the ideas of the left and the politics of the left. We have been witnesses of this trend in the last local elections in last autumn, when Andalusia managed the anti-capitalist front, in which SWP is part of, managed to get 100,000 votes. That was 4 times the votes it had in the previous national elections, and have 20 councillors elected around the country. This last year has been also full of successes for anti-capitalists in the trade unions. There have lots of comrades have been elected in local unions and in the executives. Finally, I'd like to point out how important has been for us the lessons of the revolutions in the Middle East. They have shown that we should not bow to the pressures of realism in times of crisis. The instability of the system is so big that the left has to demand more and more political space for the workers' struggle to unfold, and not and not give any time to our opponents to breathe and organize. I think that the revolution have shown to us that there are no predetermined limits to any struggle. The task of the radical left is to prove this in practice, to prove this reality of the revolutions in practice, and I think this is a challenge for all of us.